a lot of what your book is about. But you've lived in New York for 10 years. Do you feel like a New Yorker who's from Omaha, or an Omaha person who, and I don't know what the word is, what's the Omaha word? Omaha. Who lives in New York? I mean,
I feel like a New Yorker at this point. You know, like I've lived through my whole adult life, and most of my sort of like my life has been built here. You know, and you know, and I go back there. It's like still, you know, it's like my hometown, but like I don't really know anybody so much anymore, and it's changed a lot. And well, it's certainly like a place that is huge in my heart. You know, I feel like this is, you know, I'm a New Yorker at this point.
Do you feel like you're somehow fundamentally different from, say, other like people your age who grew up here because of where you grew up? Like, do you feel like you have different values or different sensibilities?
Yeah, I think about different values, but I think that there's definitely that. I mean, I feel like I get I'm both like more like tolerant and more like outraged by like things that happen in the rest of the country. You know, I mean, like as far as like political kind of things, you know, because I know. But also, you know, I feel like, yeah, I mean, I think that I understand what it's like to sort of come from nowhere and to have never sort of feel like that you're like at the center of the world or like the center of the universe, and always sort of feel like you're on the margins a little bit. Which I'm not sure is something that like people that grew up here do. And I definitely saw that outsidery sense of growing up Jewish in Omaha, which I think, you know, that like people that grew up like in Scarsdale don't have. You know, it's like always having like explain yourself and always sort of being like different than everybody else. And I mean, like in that way, like I always feel like my childhood was more like when you hear stories about people growing up Jewish in like the 50s and 60s than it was like in the 80s and 90s, like when it actually was like as it was growing up, you know, like on Long Island.
And was it a matter of anti-Semitism, or was it more ignorance? And because that's something I grew up in New Jersey, so I have no idea what that was
definitely not anti-Semitism. And not even just ignorance. I feel like is a word that is more pejorative than I want to use it. It was just sort of
foreign.
Yeah, just like incomprehension. You know, like just not really knowing what it was about or what's the difference. But you know, I feel like people were always. It was never really forgotten either. Like it was this thing that people were like conscious of and would ask you about. Like it was never like it was always an issue, not necessarily, and not at all like in a hostile way. But when you're young, that can make you uncomfortable. You know, and can feel like a little bit hostile even when it's not. I mean, I really never experienced any like overt anti-Semitism or anything like that. I want to make that very clear. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely like a sense of difference, and I don't know how much was coming from me and how much was coming from, you know, like someone else. Because I tend to always feel like that way anyway. But yeah, I mean I guess the best story about it, which is that it's just like always who you are. Like it's the first thing that people think of you as, first and foremost. Like
in Omaha,
I think, you know.
As opposed to here.
I ran into this guy that I knew from Nebraska when I was in Austin about a year ago, and he had been very good friends with this guy that I dated for a long time. And I hadn't seen him for a long time, and I sort of was like, how do I know this guy? And then I was like, oh my God, we know each other. Like, remember I used to date so-and-so, and he was like, oh yeah, the Jewess. Like that was like the first thing he thought of when he remembered who I was.
He said Jewess?
He said Jewess. And he said it like it was like funny, you know, like it was this funny thing, but he just kind of like came out with it, like that was his first association, like the first thing he remembered about me. Not, you know, not my name, not like where I was, not like what I, you know, where I was moving or living or trying to be or anything like that. Like that was what he remembered about me. And that was like that's like a really illustrative story, that kind of thing. And I remember I was with my friend Steven, who's from Boston, and Steven afterwards was just like, wow. And Steven's not Jewish, but like, you know, it was just, I don't know, that was like a funny story. And it's not really, like, it's not like I was like offended or anything. It's just kind of like, that's right. That's what it feels like to be Jewish, obviously.